Greetings all, and welcome to Vulpecula Media. As a follow-up to my last Witcher build video, which was a purely combat-driven build, I've opted to show you a little fan project of mine, which is a lore-friendly, at least to the books, lore-friendly version of Geralt that's also game viable on Death March. Okay, so the build is much like the previous combat build that I did, but it's designed to be more lore friendly. Still combat focused because Geralt is a combat specialist, as mentioned in the books. So I'll just show you the inventory, which is where we have our most flexibility. Okay, we're rocking Grandmaster Feline armor still, because Geralt mentions several times over in the books that he is a fan of lighter armors. He prefers to have free and open movement over tanking hits. He'd prefer not to be hit, rather than, increased survivability. There is a different way that you can go about this. If you've unlocked the rune word, or rune right, or whatever he's called, you can have levity put on either the Manticore armor, which is a very much Geralt-like design, or the Viper armor, which is based on the Kaer Morhen armor, or even on the Grandmaster Wolven. So if you can levity any of those medium style armors that fit Geralt's character or are a nod to the book and game history, then by all means. But I took one look at how much the room right was looking for off of me, and I was like, wow, that's like 30k. I'm not spending that. So I'm using the feline armor. Geralt has always been a substance over style kind of guy. It's always come across to me in the way he's written both books and games. So I don't think that he'd be too bothered by wearing another Witcher School's armor if it suited his fighting style. So for the steel sword, again, we've got more choice. I've gone for the Belhaven blade because the Toussaint Knight steel sword is a little fancy. It's very superlative. It goes against Geralt's whole lie low, stay neutral, choose the lesser evil thing. It's got those teeth on the blade. It's got that massive cross guard. It just screams, look at me. And Geralt also mentions that he's not actually a fan of magic, despite being attracted to all these sorcerers, or sorceresses, I should say. And the 15 chance to burn is something I don't feel that Geralt would be into compared to the 15% chance to poison. It's known that witches know their poisons, so I feel it's more accurate. I also like that the pommel of the Belhaven blade has a little snake's head on it, as a little nod to the School of the Viper, which isn't mentioned in the books, but obviously throughout the first two games, specifically game 2, the School of the Viper have some close ties. And also the Viper armor was designed to be like the Kaer Morhen armor for all of us Kaer Morhen fanboys. I went for the Belhaven blade. You could also, if you're willing to take a very small reduction in damage output, you can have the Grandmaster Wolven steel sword, which is probably the most canon friendly. But I like the perks. I think the Belhaven blade is balanced. But yeah, you could, by all means, just equip the Grandmaster steel for Wolven. So, silver sword. We're gone for Erendite. That's because the Lady of the Lake is book canon. And Erendite obviously has the wolf's head pommel, It's very Geralt all the way down, and it's the kind of subtle use of enchantment of magic that your boy would really be into, I feel, from what I've read in the books and playing the games. The other thing I was going to mention is if you have got the rune right unlocked, put Severance, I think it is, on both of these, because it will play into the build. I've got the feline crossbow because, again, it's part of the set, and in truth, it's probably the most likely, if Geralt was going to use a crossbow, that he would use one from the Witcher schools that do use a crossbow. And the cat school is book canon, the bear school is not. So we've ended up with a feline crossbow. Moving on to decoctions, we've got Ekimara decoction. Damage dealt to foes regenerates vitality. Echidna decoction, performing actions that consume stamina regenerates vitality. And Close-to-Canon decoction increases critical hit chance. You can also swap that out for Doppler if you are going to go for more of a backstab build. But I've gone for Close-to-Canon because it's consistent and it's balanced. Now, decoctions aren't mentioned in the books, but Witcher alchemy creations, you hear a lot about potions, but potions are a generically brewed thing. So decoctions, I'm saying they pass the canon. Some people say they don't pass the canon test, but Witcher alchemy creations are very vaguely referred to as elixirs more often than not in the books, or at least up to the point in the books that I've read. So I'm saying they pass. And then we've got White Rafford's decoction because it's just our best healer. It's swallow but better. Moving on to bombs. Superior Northern Wind. It's my personal favourite. Again, not mentioned in the books, I don't believe, but we got it in that opening cinematic for... Sorry guys, my phone went off. How very unprofessional. Yeah, we get it in the opening cinematic for Witcher 2, I think. Yeah, it's also one of those Geralt choosing the lesser evil thing, because I guess if you can freeze people, whether you leave them frozen or whether you choose to kill them, at least if they're frozen still, they're not aware, I guess, or it's more humane. In my previous combat build, the second bomb was superior Samum because it blinds everything as opposed to things that have like fire damage resistance and such. And I stand by that for the combat build, but for the canon build, there is a whole lesson that Vesemir is teaching Ciri, and I presume taught to Geralt, which is that many necrophages and various ghoulies that they fight have an inherent weakness to fire and light, but he actively advises that witches don't fight using fire or light because it casts shadows which impede their actual sword fighting ability and their overall visibility. So I've gone for superior Grape Shot instead. It ticks all the boxes. It destroys monster nests. It's a physical bomb with silver shrapnel being its main modus operandi, I suppose. That's how the bomb works. Small amount of fire damage, but contained solely to the person it hits. I think it's peak canon as far as the bombs are going to go. So moving into the character build, and you'll see why I was mentioning the levity thing. So first of all, we're going all the way down the fast attack tree, because Geralt trains Ciri how to use agility to overcome stronger opponents or many opponents at once. So fast attacks are probably where Geralt would focus his fighting style on. So we're looking at fast attack damage increased by 25% using muscle memory. All of these skills are maxed, of course. Precise blows to increase your chance of a critical hit by 10% and your critical hit damage by 75%. And whirl to manage the to give an area of effect style attack. Whirl is going to be our sort of main viable damage dealer in this build. It goes without saying, really. They're just spinning like a top and slashing anything you come across is about as efficient as you can get at dealing damage. But yeah, Geralt in the books is more of a fast attacks kind of guy, so we've gone for that. We got arrow deflection. Whilst I know that people have builds out there that are tanky enough to take an arrow, and to be fair, this build could probably take a few arrows before you start slowing down and reconsidering your options. But the arrow deflection skill is mentioned so much across the franchise and demonstrated so much across the franchise that it is basically the benchmark for a witch's reflexes. We've gone for fleet-footed and counterattack to match the fighting style of Geralt, how he trained Ciri, how Vesemir trained Geralt and then Ciri to, like I say, not have to tank the hit. You move out the way of the hit, you pirouette, there's a half turn, etc., etc. And there's a whole lesson where he is teaching Ciri to sort of handle an area of effect onslaught by using 3 pendulums and 3 sacks on a beam. And he teaches her the art of the counterattack by deflecting off of one of the pendulums to cut one of the sacks harder and faster. So just to cover that, fleet-footed means that when we dodge, if we are dodging and we accidentally get hit, if we move into another hit from a dodge, the damage is reduced by 100%. And the counterattack is hugely underrated, like so underused in all the builds I've looked at on YouTube. After a successful counterattack, the next attack deals an extra 30% damage per skill level, so that's 90% damage, and is a critical hit with a chance for knockdown based on your number of adrenaline points, which is mad. That's so cool. Moving into the adrenaline tree, I found this tricky. But you kind of have to use the adrenaline tree for the build anyway. So adrenaline is not mentioned in the books, or as far as I've read to yet. What is mentioned is that Witcher hormones work differently, and since adrenaline is a hormone, we're going to go with that. So resolve, adrenaline point loss upon taking damage is lowered by 100%. The way I've interpreted that into the canon is that Geralt is unperturbed by the smaller slashes and missteps and things like that. He's a skilled swordsman. He knows how to tolerate a little bit of fatigue, a bit of wear and tear mid-fight. So I've gone with that. Undying. Witches are renowned for their resilience and how close they can come to death and then still live. There is no real account of witches like spontaneously coming back to life, which I know is how some people see this, because it's essentially saying that when you hit 0 health, you're going to get a second wind. But I think it's true to Canon Geralt that there are points where the chips are truly, the odds are stacked against him, the chips are down. And he still comes back from that. So I've gone for Undying for that. And Razor Focus I've gone for because witches are all about being fully focused in combat. Like, it is a dance for them. It is steps, half turns, pirouettes, backflip, whatever you've got to do. Like, it is completely pre-mapped. And they are so focused on the steps and their opponent's movements meeting those steps that I felt that it was canon enough. So for those who don't know, Razor Focus instantly gain 1 adrenaline point whilst entering combat, and then your adrenaline points generated by sword blows are increased by 25%. So basically you can't run out of adrenaline even if you're spending it on Whirl, because you've got Resolve keeping it. Like, Resolve keeps it so that all of the stuff you gain from Razor Focus is only going to be used by you. It's not going to be knocked down. It's a resource for you to manage. So you could say that from a canon approach, I'm sort of looking at the whole battle trance adrenaline tree as like Geralt's, not just his combat techniques, but his deep witchery inner focus on fighting. We've also gone for one from the strong attack tree, because I got to be honest, I think that they put it in the strong attack tree because it looks like it matches, but realistically it could be an offset of the fast attack tree. I dropped crippling strikes because the bleeding effect, whilst it is nice to be able to get away from people and still know that they're at least losing something, it is not as useful as knowing your way around or analysing the weak spots of your opponent's armour, which Geralt does and teaches Ciri to do, to analyse weak spots and areas where defences are lower on the enemy. So I went for Sunder Armour. Reduce your enemy damage resistance by 25%. Crazy good. Moving into signs. Geralt uses all the signs in the books, in some way or another, I'm pretty sure. In fact, there's two others that are in that aren't in Witcher 3 that he uses. Some of them he doesn't refer to by name, some of them have different names. The main ones I think he uses are Earden, Ard, and Axii. I know that the canon version of Quen is actually its alternate form, the active shield. And he uses Igni less for combat, but more for like setting fires and getting out of handcuffs and stuff like that. So I opted to use all of them and focus on Delusion, because gameplay wise it's a quality of life enhancer. You know, you get extra experience points, you move through dialogue smoother, you spend less coin, which is something that Geralt, canon or otherwise, would definitely be interested in, saving money, witches are always skint, they're always poor. And also, again, that lesser evil approach. Like, if I can influence someone not to fight me and inevitably die, then that is the lesser evil. Then we've got cat school techniques, hence the use of levity if you want to use any of those more stylistically Geralt-y armors. You'd want levity to make it light armor, so that you can take advantage of cat school techniques. So each piece of light armor increases your critical hit damage by 25% and your fast attack damage by 5%. So with a full set of armor, you're looking at 100% extra critical hit damage and 20% increased fast attack damage, which is awesome. So the cat school techniques, I feel, are the most canon of the three school techniques in the general perk tree build. I'll just show you them. So you got cat, griffin, and bear. So bear school, as cool as they are and as cool as the whole Ursine theme is, they're not mentioned in the books at all. The Griffin school is, but they are like an old, very knightly order who focused on scholarship and the use of magic, which is not Geralt's forte, as I've already said. So the cat school techniques are what's left. They feed into Geralt's love of light armor. And also, there is a bit in the books where Geralt is essentially in an organized arena fighting against the cat school, and it's supposed to be like a friendly thing, and then it turns out it's a plot to kill the school of the wolf. And Geralt to me comes across as the kind of guy that would use the experience of surviving seeing all of his kin slaughtered by a different Witcher school to probably learn how that Witcher school managed it. So I think he would have come away from that with some cat school techniques. So finally we're going to move into the alchemy aspect of the build. Euphoria is our mutation. That is so canon. It hurts. Like, I feel like there's a reason it's the most powerful mutation, arguably, for most builds. Each point of toxicity increases damage dealt by swords and sign intensity by 0.75%, up to a max of 200.25%. The whole thing that sets Geralt apart from other witches is that he had further mutations performed upon him. and he responds better or more extremely to potions, decoctions, and other Witcher alchemy creations. So I really feel like it is the canon mutation, if there was going to be one. And we've gone for the heightened tolerance to increase our potion overdose threshold to 100%. An acquired tolerance to boost our maximum toxicity to, I think, now 260, around about that point. I'll show you the stats in a minute. This is just because that's kind of why they undergo the trial of the grasses. Obviously, it mutates the eyes and reflexes, and it changes them on a biochemical level. But it is a measure of their tolerance to poison, essentially. It restructures the resilience of Witcher cells. So every Witcher would probably have these two. If I was doing this pre-Blood and Wine, I'd probably have to waste a few skill points to get down to Synergy, because Synergy is very Geralt-like. It would sort of mimic that Euphoria thing. You know, the whole being more receptive to mutagens and alchemical ingredients. But since we have Euphoria, I think that fulfills that role. If you're playing pre that, then I would probably drop Delusion for all it's worth and put Synergy in there. And obviously I'd remove things around. Might even have to drop Undying or something like that. So we've got 3... No, we haven't. I can't count. We've got 4 Greater Red Mutagens to bolster our attack power. Because Geralt's a practical lad, really. I mean, in the books, he comes across like a 65% combat, 20% signs, 15% alchemy kind of guy. But like I say, because of Euphoria, we don't really need to feed into any of these signs particularly, other than Delusion, which is actively leveled throughout the game. Like, it's level checked for its use. So that's pretty much the build. I'll quickly go through the stats with you. So we're getting 3697 DPS Silver Sword. So that's pretty high damage output, and then once we start chugging decoctions and such, it goes up a considerable amount. 2320 on the Steel Sword. Yeah, I mean, it's not the best damage output, but again, once we start feeding into Euphoria, which will be straight off the bat for most fights, it's gonna be a lot higher. 509 armor, because that's what every Grandmaster armor set comes out at. Just under 6k vitality. Again, that's leveled. So I'm level 52 at the moment. I'm pretty sure you can do this build from about level 46 if you've got all the places of power. But yeah, you'll have to check me on that. We got 267 points of toxicity, because I know all of the decoctions and dyes and such like that. And then plus 28% sign intensity, which is about right, because Geralt is not only not fond of magic, but it's noted that other witches that are still alive have much stronger signs than him. Let's chug a few decoctions and just see where that comes out. Okay, so as you can see, 5458 on the Silver Sword. Things will be dying in a couple of hits, even with like enemy upscaling on. Obviously turn that off when you get to New Game Plus, because we're going to need to start changing equipment and things like that. But for late game, Blood and Wine, that's more than enough. That's going to slice and dice through just about everything. Same for the Steel Sword. That's plenty enough to get you through Hanses if you're playing this build correctly, doing the dodging, counter-attack, stuff like that. You're going to be hitting for like 6k. And then you can see our sign intensity is now at 186% after 3 decoctions, meaning that whilst your damages from signs aren't that high, you know, you're looking at was 0 telekinetic damage from Ard because you've not unlocked Shockwave, I think it is. Only 286 damage for Igni. You know, Quen does a decent chunk, takes off nearly 600 physical damage. But realistically, the bonus of that sign intensity from Euphoria is that Ard will always stagger, Igni will always burn, Yrden gets 35% slowdown out of 42%, which is where it's capped, because they nerfed it in like one of the patches 4 years ago. And its duration is nearly half a minute. I mean, that's really good. And then Axii gets you basically 15 seconds of just them standing around waiting for you to hit them. So your signs are more than capable to cycle through them as you need them, and your damage output is going to be great. And you've got a cannon... don't know why I'm going that way. You've got a cannon Geralt build. Best of all the worlds, basically. It doesn't matter what type of fanboy you are, or fangirl, if you like. I know they're out there somewhere. It doesn't matter what kind of fan you are, you've fulfilled all of the requirements, you've ticked all the sheets. And like I say, if you're not a cheapskate like me and actually unlock the rune right, you can get even more lore friendly. Drop some Viper armor on it, get some levity on there, some severance on the blades, you know. Geralt's not a fan of enchantments, but if it helps move that towards the stylistic choice that Geralt would pick, or the image that we all have in our head from mix of Netflix, games, and reading the books, then do it, yeah. There's stuff you can play around with if you've got the resources and the time, but if you literally just want to level yourself up to a point where you can craft an endgame Geralt build that's fairly lore friendly, then I think this does a good job. If you like this video, leave us a like. If you disliked it or you disagree with my opinion on what makes a canon Geralt, please, by all means, inform me. Leave a comment. I will actively engage with you about it. And subscribe if you want more content, because there's gonna be more content. Thanks for watching, guys. Cheers then. Okay, so I felt bad about being cheap and not going to see the rune right. So this is what Geralt looks like if you're a purist and you want to make him wear the Wolven armor. You have to enchant it with levity to activate those cat school techniques. And obviously the gear bonus changes to having up to 3 different oils rather than strong attacks making fast attacks better. We've got Grandmaster Wolven Steel Sword with Severance, same as Erendite. So it proves to show that Geralt is more efficient with swords than other people. And obviously that gives you the extra range by a yard or 2 with Whirl and Rend. Let's just show you how that affects the stats. So the raw damage output with all your decoctions is a little lower. Especially the Steel Sword. But that's the price you pay for canon friendliness. I'll just quickly show you what it's like without your decoctions on as well, for if you get caught out. Hold on. So yeah, 3,356 DPS for your silver and 2115 for your steel. Got extra sign intensity though, although that's not really useful. And yeah, like I say, if you chock yourself full of decoctions, you'll obviously see an improvement from that Euphoria, because we've not changed the character slots, the skill slots, sorry. And it brings your steel sword up to over 3,000 and silver up to over 5,000, sign intensity at 208%. So that is the very expensive, very canonically friendly, slightly weaker version of Geralt. Thanks for watching. See you on the flip side.